Okay, it is 6:30 in week one for EDU 503. I am going to go ahead and get started on the meeting. As you know, um, the meetings for Zoom are not required. However, it is greatly recommended by myself and by my other students. And people have stated in the past that these meetings are extremely, extremely helpful. So I have a general format that I follow. I have a hard time staying on task. I'm very ADHD. So I want to stay structured so that you can understand what I'm doing and we can stay focused and I can provide you with the most help within the 30 minutes that we have. So I'm going to share the screen, and this is what I do every week. I share my Zoom screen with you. If I have any example templates that I want to go through with you, I have those. And I also have a PowerPoint that is very different from the instructional PowerPoint that is provided by St. Thomas. My goal for the Zoom session is to clarify anything that you might be confused about and to give you specific advice so that the quality of your work is top notch. So every week, basically, the meetings go the same way. I take the information from questions that come to me throughout the week. And what I haven't posted in announcements, I will put in the Zoom meeting, but I will tell you that I have students who have said the Zoom meetings for this course have made a huge, huge difference. And it really varies from instructor to instructor. So I've been working with St. Thomas University for about 3 years now. I have 18 years experience in the field of education. I have taught and been a principal at all grade levels, K through 12. I work on an on-ground community college here in East Tennessee, in addition to working for a public school system and working with St. Thomas. So I have a few things to do. I'm the mother of 3 children. My oldest is 25. He got married this summer. My middle child just graduated college and she is engaged. And then my youngest child is 16 years old. He's a junior in high school. So I have been around young people for a long time and am very happy to be working at St. Thomas. They are very supportive. I do understand that this is your first graduate course. If this is your first master's degree, sometimes we have students who come back for a second master's degree. And some of you are not in the field of education at this time, or you do not have a degree in the field of education. That is going to pose some additional challenges for you, but it is not impossible. It is just going to create a little more work than what students have when they have a background in the field of education. So one thing I want to remind you about is you should check your announcements daily. I send announcements frequently. If I sense that some of you are struggling or you need clarification, those come via announcements because they're public and everyone can see them, including my supervisors and other folks. I have access to a report called an interactions report, and there's another piece of that report called an access report. So I know how many times you have logged on, when you have logged on, and what activity you participated in while you were logged on. So sometimes when I have students who struggle, and this is difficult when it's the first class, but when I have students that struggle, I can say, I'm seeing that you're only spending X amount of hours a week doing this or that. Maybe you should consider spending more time. So access is not necessarily important because you could just click on an announcement or click on an assignment. That's about access. But the interactions report actually tells me where you're spending your time. Okay, so the course length is 5 weeks. It's accelerated, it's fast-paced, and it is 3 times faster than a standard semester course. This means that you have to do 3 times the amount of work in 1 week than you would normally do in another graduate course. I've had students in the past say, I thought it would be easier because it's online. It can be easier if you have a very busy lifestyle. However, if you are signing on just the minimal amount of time and doing a minimal amount of work, it is going to be a struggle because it's more work and less interaction with the other students in the class and with the instructor. So you have to really be self-motivated. The grading scale for St. Thomas is listed here. Of course, everybody wants an A, and that's 93 to 100, and anything below a C indicates that you have to repeat the course. So if your average is below a 73, St. Thomas will ask you to repeat the course in order to continue the program. Now, just so that you know, we only earn 100 points in this course. So if you decide to skip a discussion board and lose that 6 points, your grade is automatically down to 94 if it was 100% prior to that. So know that even though discussion boards may be 5 or 6 points, they are 5 or 6% of your grade. So students will receive grades on individual assignments based on the rubric and the assignment expectations. Be very careful there, because St. Thomas tends to create rubrics in Ember, or in Canvas, in Canvas, that are kind of standard based on class to class. So make sure you go to the assignment instructions and follow those expectations carefully. Late assignments will receive a 50% penalty for up to 24 hours late. Any assignment not received beyond 1 day late will receive a score of 0. The reason being, we only have 5 weeks in this class. It is a graduate course and the pace is very rapid, and it's easy to get very far behind and blink your eyes, and 2 weeks into the course, you realize that you're about halfway through and you are very far behind. Extra credit assignment extensions and exceptions to the late policy are not permitted. So please make sure you have your priorities in order. There are extreme situations that can be considered if you're in the emergency room, and you can provide an emergency room receipt showing that you were actually present there. Sometimes we work around it just a little bit. Assignment deadlines, the discussion board initial post, this can be confusing. On the assignment, when you click on the assignment, it will say initial post due Wednesday, tonight, replies due Sunday. Now that can be confusing, because unless you click on assignment, you're not going to see that you have a discussion post due on Wednesday night. So what I have done is I've gone into the calendar and I have created an event, a calendar event, to remind you that your initial post is due. That helps a lot. It's the only way I can give you a signal that something is due, because I don't have access to manipulate the curriculum. So because we have our Zoom meetings on Wednesday night, and some people watch the Zoom meeting video late Wednesday night, I provide you an additional day to do your initial post. That initial post is actually due for me with full credit by Thursday night at 11:59. All written assignments are due Saturdays by 11:59 p.m. and the replies to the discussion board are due by 11:59 on Sunday. However, in week 5, everything is due Saturday. So all of those, for me, we are in Eastern time. So that's the time. I think it adjusts the due dates based on your calendar, so that by your clock, 11:59, it's due. So one of the things we're going to do this week is complete an annotated bibliography. And this is a step just before you create your literature preview. The purpose of this class is for you to learn how to do APA format. Most of us have used MLA format in high school or in undergraduate school. In graduate school, we use the American Psychological Association format for citations. That's a big deal in graduate school, and it's a very big deal in the research methods class. So we want to take time in week 1 to give you an assignment where the focus is citing sources and locating really good sources. So step 1 in planning a research project is to identify a problem area. Now, if you're smart, you will go ahead and create this focus for your annotated bibliography, and then you will translate that into the articles that you use in your literature review. So really, week 1 is preparing your resources for week 2. You identify a problem area in the field of education. Remember, you're getting a degree in education, so your study and your focus is on education. If you don't teach, or if you're not working in a school and you don't plan on working in a K through 12 school, then focus on adult education or something specific to training in the area where you plan to use this degree. So, for example, a broad area for study might be teacher-student relationships. I'm going to examine the literature, professional journal articles or books, such as Journal of Curriculum and Pedagogy, Educational Psychologist, or Introduction to Research and Education, which is our text. When you examine the literature, please understand that you are looking for peer-reviewed sources. You are not looking at blogs. You are not looking at chats. You are not looking at articles in magazines that have not been peer-reviewed. This means that empirical research has been done. This means that someone has done the research, they have written about their findings, and someone else in the professional field has evaluated to make sure those findings are credible. You identify a research question, hypothesis, or purpose. This means you are going to find a question to answer, a phenomenon to explain, or a hypothesis to test. How are relationships between teachers and students established? And do teacher-student relationships impact student achievement? So let's talk a little bit about previewing the literature, because for this week and next week, we're really focusing on the broad topic and the literature. We're not ready to make a hypothesis yet. That's coming in some weeks down the road. So when you examine the research, you are going to use journal articles and research-based books. Like I said, you're looking at empirical research. You're looking at the reports that are written by people who've actually done the studies and experiments. And that's how theories of education emerge from the research. You will preview literature that's provided in St. Thomas University Library. And if you haven't been in school in several years and you haven't had the opportunity to look at what has been available, please do that. These resources have already been introduced to you. So this link was simply to the STU EDU library. There are two ways to do a search. I suggest, because we're in the field of education, you click on the A to Z database. The best source that we have for education literature is ERIC. It is the Education Research Database. EBSCOhost is the housing agent for that research. You click on EBSCOhost and then you sign in. So I'll sign in. It takes you to a search engine. The key here to locate the best sources is to click on peer-reviewed and full text. Articles that are not full text will not be of use to you because you have no way to look at the entire article. I tend to look in articles that are 10 years or less old. So I would set the dates for that, or I would do the search. So let's say my topic is teacher relationships with students. 7,168 peer-reviewed articles in full text. So then I realized this is a really broad category and I'm probably going to have to narrow some things down. What do I mean by that? So that's how you begin your search. That is the beginning of figuring out what question do I want to answer? What problem do I want to solve in the field of education? So this class is designed for you to synthesize information from multiple sources. Synthesis is where you take a combination of ideas from different locations and you create a theory or a system or an understanding. You put together parts or elements to form a whole. The author of our textbook says that synthesis gives you a whole picture of what is known to show you how diverse information fits together and makes sense from multiple sources. It points out gaps because the purpose of research is to fill the gaps. So when you synthesize information, it must come from more than one or two sources, because you can't have diverse information if you only have one or two sources. So synthesis comes from multiple resources. So let's stop for just a minute and talk about the late policy. Any assignment submitted up to 24 hours late will earn a maximum of 50%. It's not a guaranteed 50%. Any assignment submitted more than 24 hours late will receive a score of 0. There are no exceptions to that policy. However, any complete written assignment submitted on time may be revised and resubmitted for full credit within 24 hours of the grade being posted. So what that means is, within 24 hours of the moment I give you a grade, you should get a notification when you receive a grade. I will post a statement that's inside the grade book that says, you may resubmit corrections and edits to this assignment by, and it will be exactly 24 hours from the time that I scored it. If an assignment is late or incomplete, it cannot be resubmitted. Now, many instructors in this program do not have a revise and resubmit policy, but I believe in growth mindset. I believe that we learn from our mistakes, and I would rather you resubmit and really be proud of what you've done than to accept a grade in a 5-week program that is going to really cause you to fail. I would rather you have the opportunity to learn. Now, one area that becomes a challenge very early on for students in this first graduate program is the use of Turnitin. Turnitin is a plagiarism checker software used all over the world. And basically what happens is when you submit your paper to Turnitin, that's what happens when you submit it to Canvas, the entire database of every assignment that's been published or turned in online in the entire world is scanned. What Turnitin does is it tells me the percentage of borrowed text that you've used. The preferred percentage is less than 20%. However, I allow my students up to 25% of borrowed text. This means that 25% of your paper can be from someone else's ideas if they're properly cited. If they're more than that, you will receive a penalty. So if your percentage is more than that, I will give you a notification, and you will see when you turn it in that you have a certain percentage. Then I will allow you to resubmit, but there is a 25% penalty for resubmitting assignments. And the reason why this is so severe is that plagiarism is a tremendous problem in university settings, and we want to make sure you learn from the very beginning. If you borrow text, make sure you cite it properly. This is an explanation of the same information. So when I look at Turnitin, this is the report I get when you have submitted an assignment to Canvas. This is the percentage that I see. It tells me how much. And for every item in your paper that is borrowed, there is a highlight and a number. That number tells me which source. So literally, Turnitin tells me where you got that information. When I click on the box, it tells me that everything in pink from ebimissouri.edu is exactly what you have in your paper. There's a problem with that. That's a lot of information belonging to someone else, and it is not cited. It's not cited properly. But you also do not want to use the exact words from any source for more than 3 lines. That's just basic writing. But notice how source 2 is used multiple times. That's a red flag for me. Here is one where another student submitted a paper to Utah Valley State College and to St. Thomas, and this says another student submitted that paper. Exact wording. So please know that it takes a little bit of adjusting, and usually in the first week I don't give a 25% penalty for students with issues with plagiarism or borrowed text, because you're learning. This is new. But after week 1, there is a penalty for turning in assignments that have more than 25% similarity. Discussion board etiquette is something that you also should be familiar with. I am not going to show you the entire video, but when I send you the PowerPoint, you'll be able to go to YouTube and watch this video.
One way that we use the principle, teach one another from the BYU.
You're able to watch this video and get some guidance on what you should and should not do on discussion boards. I apologize for the volume there. I was not prepared for it to be that loud. I'm probably very loud too. I apologize. So that video will be available in the PowerPoint that I attach to the announcement and when I post the YouTube video of this Zoom session for you to review again. So now let's look at the assignments. We have about 10 more minutes left, so I want to make sure that I get to this part. The first discussion assignment is a journal article review. This is something that you did in your annotated bibliography. This is basically you taking a piece of the annotated bibliography out and pasting it into the discussion board. It says select one of the most useful articles in your annotated bibliography, but it's really specific here, and sometimes people miss this part. And provide a brief summary of the main points of the article, 1, with a description of how it pertains to your topic, and 2, 1 paraphrase and 1 quote from your article. This is to help you practice paraphrasing and quoting using APA format. So please make sure you have a paraphrase and a quote in this journal article review, and you've listed your reference at the bottom. The discussion board rubric is generally broad because all courses at St. Thomas University use the same discussion board rubric. It should be specific and logic and effective and in a professional format, which includes an APA format. It should not be written in chat language or texting language. The response that you will get 2.5 points for, this is your response to at least one other student. It integrates multiple perspectives. So this means that you use the ideas of others to make suggestions or to comment something that you might do based on their research. So you aren't just talking about what you do. You're not just talking about what the other person is doing. You're talking about how you can help each other integrate perspectives using the research. So assignment number 1 is the annotated bibliography, which shows at least 10 peer-reviewed scholarly sources that have been published within the last 5 years on your topic. If you have a topic that doesn't have a lot of information from the last 5 years, please email me, and depending on the topic, I will allow you to expand that to 10 years back. All work must be submitted as a Word document. So I provided you with, hold on just a minute. You guys are showing up on my screen and I have to move you based on how my screen is set up. So I provided you with a template in the announcements today, and I provided it as a Word document so that you could literally go in, save this document, and begin working right on this document. APA format has a running head, a page number. The abbreviated title is in all caps. The trick is on page 2, you have the abbreviated title, but you do not have the words running head. That's why this template is very helpful. Then you list the authors, the date in APA format. You have the resources to do APA format. And then this piece tells you what to do. This section is the annotation. Continue with the format to summarize, assess, and reflect, answering the questions with each section indicated at the Online Writing Lab website. This article presents typical patterns of physical activity of 3 groups, so I'm giving you an example. Then down here in the italicized colored font is a little bit more advice about how to set up your paper. So everything is provided for you if you take the time to use the resources that we provide. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. The rubric for the annotated bibliography is a little bit more flexible than the rubric for the research proposal, which is your final project. The one thing that you should know is that starting in week 2, 3, 4, and 5, each of those weeks you create another piece of the proposal that will be turned in on the last week. So you get credit for it along the way, but also it's all combined in the end and rearranged and synthesized a little bit with some summaries and some more specific information. But every week you're working on something that's going to show up in the end. Now, at the end of this presentation, I'm not going to go through all of it with you, but I want you to know that I have provided you with examples of citations. If you're introducing a quote with an author tag, this is how you do it. If you're using a standard reference for a direct quote, this is how you do it. If you're quoting an author with different writing and publishing dates, I mean, there are lots and lots of examples in here. So if you will just take the time to look at these resources, you will see that I am providing you with lots of information that's helpful. So having said all of that, I am going to stop share so that you can ask me questions. So if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask a question, I'm available for that right now.
Hi, my name is Marley. I emailed you the other day. My topic for the paper is classroom bullying. Is that appropriate for the assignment or no?
Yes, I think I replied to you.
Yes, you did.
Okay, good. If you guys need to reach me like right now, send the email to the STU email address rather than in Canvas, the T Sands, because I get those on my phone when I'm at work during the day, so I can reply to you very quickly, or if you text me, I can reply very quickly. Yes, classroom bullying is an issue in the field of education, so you may have to end up focusing your topic later on middle school, high school, cyberbullying, girl bullying, severe bullying that leads to suicide. You know, there are different elements to bullying, and when you actually do your research proposal, you will focus that. But for the annotated bibliography and for the literature preview, you're just going to scan and you're going to see things that interest you, and you're going to develop a question in your mind, and that's where your proposal will come from.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question? Okay. I am going to end the meeting now. Please know that I will post the video of this meeting on our announcements page through YouTube this evening, probably within the next hour. I will include this PowerPoint so that you can go through and look at the APA formatting examples I have provided. And also remember that the template for your annotated bibliography is provided on announcements as an attachment. And one thing that you need to remember, it's really hard to do this in the beginning. I had the very same experience when I started my program, is in APA format, every capital letter, every space, every comma has a purpose. When I say it's a template, I mean it's a template. Follow the format exactly. Don't add lines. Don't take lines away. Don't be creative with fonts or anything like that. Stick to Times New Roman 12 and just follow what is there. Because in the world of APA, we want everybody's document to be formatted the same in a uniform manner, and that's the purpose for that. So thank you for coming online. Send me an email this week if you need help. Remember, you have a posting plus an introduction due tonight, but you do have until Thursday because this meeting takes up time, and then your replies are due Sunday. Thank you, and have a good rest of the week.